Hey, welcome to How to Be a Sound Engineer. It's been a while since I've uploaded any videos on this channel, so I'm going to try to upload a few more coming up quickly. I think in this video I'm going to do a video on cleaning up audio. As as an engineer, that's kind of important, especially if you get jobs where um, the it's not necessarily studio jobs. I get a lot of clients from all over the world want me to clean up audio for a lot of video projects. They go out with their camcorder or whatever, and they record some interview or whatever, and the audio is oftentimes very crappy because they didn't set up their audio correctly to begin with. Excuse me, I have kind of a cold, so my voice is kind of raspy right now. Anyway, so let's start off. I'm using is a Adobe Audition CC. You can use other software for this, but there's some really cool tools in here for on Audition that I thought I would use. It just makes more sense. So I'm gonna bring in a recent client's work. I've already finished it and sent it off to client. So I'm gonna kind of start over, not necessarily do everything I did to it, but give you a general idea of kind of what I did. So it was a AAC file from a video they shot, which is kind of weird considering it means they rendered it out. This isn't actually the original files because video standards 48 hertz sample rate. As you can see here, this is a 44.1, which is standard music. So obviously, and I know why, because they took a bunch of different clips and put it together. You'll kind of see here in a second. But and it's very poor quality audio. So obviously this situation, I'll show you in a second, you can't make it perfect. It's just impossible. There's problems in it that just aren't fixable. But we did make it more understandable and just better overall. And the client was very happy with my work. So I brought it into here, just dragged it in from another screen. I use 3 screens on my workstation for my main computer, sometimes 4. I do have a 4th one hooked up, but usually I'm just using 3 side by side. Anyway, so you're only seeing one screen right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up this waveform tab, and you can see right here. Well, it's not looking too good. Basically, here's your waveforms and your spectral. I forget what this section's called, but it shows kind of like the information in frequency waves right here. I forget the name of this graph, what exactly called off the top of my head, but it shows kind of like the brighter the colors along here, the louder or more powerful or more present that frequency range is. As you can see, there is a lot of low frequency here, a lot of bright in the low frequency range. There's 2 sides here because it's a stereo track, as it's shown up here as well, meaning that he took all the samples and rendered it out, like I said before. And who knows, he may have made it worse during the process. I don't know. I don't have the original files. This is what he sent me. So, excuse me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. We're going to listen to it for a second and try not to cry, okay? As you can tell, that is horrible. Things are peaking, clipping. There's reverb, which we can't really do anything about the reverb. We can do some EQ to kind of minimize some of the reverb effect in certain frequency ranges, mainly to reduce rumble, which you're seeing a lot of. Obviously, they're recording this with some sort of cheap camcorder, my guess, and it is they're probably in some very open space with lots of hard surfaces. Even it might even be a smaller room with very hard surfaces around them, like tiles or tile walls, tile floor, who knows. But very poor recording environment, very poor mic placement, and obviously they're probably not even hooking up a mic, they're just running it off straight off the camera in this instance, and it just sounds like crap. Normally you would, in real world, you would put like a lavalier mic on somebody, or a very directional mic, aim it at them from as close as you get the mic to them to minimize room noise, even put blankets or sound dampening material off camera to reduce said noise and whatnot. Anyway, so this is what we got to work with. So there's lots of sibilants, the S sounds, that we can remove. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a noise reduction filter. Actually, before we even do that, I'm going to show you specifically some tools in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in. We're just going to kind of work with this section for this demonstration. I'm going to zoom in here. And we're going to grab it right here, drag it over a little bit. And so you can see kind of these little, like, first off, you can see, if you notice, here's your frequency ranges above 10K, 6K, so on and so forth, all the way down below 1K, and real low tones here. So the lower down here is the lower frequencies. This bottom line, I believe, represents 20 hertz. And I think the top here is 15K, I think. Anyway, so each, obviously, with each recording, I think they even use different cameras or different settings on the camera, because the reason being is each clip sounds a little bit different. Some later in the clip, there's some guy parts that are very rumbly. But you notice that there's these clear kind of marks here, like, okay, so this, whatever microphone was being used or camera, has some sort of, it doesn't record above this frequency range here. And, so this one may be like about 6K. This one up here is somewhere around, probably 14. And then obviously this is the top. Who knows how high it goes, but this one registers up to, I think it's 15K. But so we see these extensions. They're kind of like extra clips. So what we can do, zoom in a little further here. We can take this tool here, this spot healing brush tool, and we could take that over this and paint those sections out. So it doesn't take all the sound away, it just kind of removes some of that extra above the sound clipping. Not to mention, there's nothing really up here, this high frequency range anyway, but other than distortion. So let's take that out, start with. So back up just a little bit here. If we click here and listen to this section here and this here, now we're going to paint them out. A little bit better. That's obviously not much, but just a little bit. You'll probably notice more if we go down to this section here. Go to this section. My phone's going crazy. Anyway, pay attention to the sound down here. very loud clipping, distortion. Sounds like crap. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint these out. It's going to remove some of the distortion. And there you go. Okay, now let's listen to the difference. Okay, it's not like any quieter per se, because the volume isn't changing. We're not changing the volume here, but we did remove a little bit of the distortion on the top end that was one main problem. We'll control this a little bit more with some compressors and limiters and other things in a second. But basically what I did is I went through this whole clip and got rid of all these noticeable things. Or if I was watching and I saw some sort of weird line somewhere in it, like a dark line or a peak, or I could paint that section out. So it isn't necessarily these specific over sound points here that we'd only use this on. It could be all kinds of all kinds of stuff. Any kind of a place where you have distortions or like clicks. Like this works great for like clicks and pops. Great for that stuff. Sometimes some spot like S's you can use this tool with. If you don't have a lot of S's, just very specific points. Any kind of pop, click, S sound, you can kind of auto heal or heal it to a point. Obviously this is kind of extreme. Like I said before, this is extreme example, but it does help. And then, so what I'm gonna do here next is come into this tool here, and I'm gonna go down to, there's like noise reduction plugins in here that work a lot the same way. They're just not as nice as what I'm going to show you here. I use a lot of Waves plugins, which you'll see here in a second. But Audition does have its own versions of pretty much all this stuff. In one fashion or another, you just have to play around with it. They look a little different because every plugin manufacturer makes their plugins to function slightly different, to look different, whatever. But I like using Waves. They're amazing plugins. I use a lot of Waves plugins for different things. So we're going to go down to restoration. I have it kind of broken down into sections here. So, and then I'm going to use, I'm trying to remember if I used X-Hum or X-Noise or Z-Noise. I think it was Z-Noise. These two plugins work very similar to each other. They're very, very similar in setup. So what I'm going to do is, what I'm going to do first off here, close that for a second, turn that off. I'm going to, let's see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this whole thing down because we don't need to work with everything. I just kind of wanted to show you what the whole process was. Just going to trim this. Crop. Okay, there we go. Okay. So this is just a small section. Okay, so you hear all that static, all that, obviously that's too loud, but let's first remove some of that background noise. So I'm going to turn this back on, open it back up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Learn. So I'm playing it. You can actually see on this as well, it's recognizing that just about 5K or about 5K here is a significant drop off, which is about where this line is here. As you can see, there's not much information above that point, other than just probably computer information when it was rendered. But probably wasn't, nothing was recorded at that level. As you can see, there's just a steep drop off. So, however that happened between the original recording and me getting these files, who knows? But it may have been there originally, and they did something to it. A number of things could have caused that, but for whatever reason, that's what it is. So you can kind of see the representation there. Follows both sides. So now that we've ran that through there, and it's like, okay, well, this is the sound profile, so to speak. Now we can go ahead and play this again. As I move this reduction up, you can see that it's affecting that. And it affects it across the whole bandwidth here equally on that. Another thing we can do is we can crank up certain sections. So now it's reducing more sound in the lower frequencies here. I moved up this. You can see that's selected at right now at 57. I can kind of play around with that to get where I want it. And maybe even do it up over here as well. Even though there's not much information, there's still a little bit there. As you can see, it's kind of a light color. It's not completely black. So there's still a little bit of information there, a little background noise. We can even kind of move it a little over here, get rid of some of this other stuff, and kind of play around with the threshold point in which it takes effect and how much reduction. So this is kind of like, all right, we can sit here and play whole sections of audio and kind of fine tune all these settings here as far as your threshold, your reduction. This will give you a representation of the overall noise reduction, and these are more detailed information based on frequency ranges. You can also use the adaptive. So if it's a very changing piece that changes a lot, that isn't necessarily the same, you can use the adaptive function, and you just click that and leave it on, and when it renders out, it'll kind of adapt that whole process through whatever the clip is. It's not as accurate or specific in each section because it's kind of like reacting as opposed to preset parameters. So it's using its best judgment to what it should do. In something like this short clip here, we'd obviously set it up. We'd noise, learn the profile, and so forth. The attack and release. The attack is how fast the noise reduction takes place. So it's set to 1/100th of a second here. So this would be like 1 would be 1 second, which would take forever. Then it'd be 1/10, and then 1/100th. So 1/100th is as fast as it goes. You want it to take effect quickly. There's scenarios where you may want to slow it down so it's not so abrupt. Again, that's kind of where fine-tuning this, listening to it on not only headphones but other monitoring, monitors and stuff, and trying to tweak it just right. Obviously, I'm not going to do that for this tutorial because you guys don't want to watch 20 minutes of tweaking it to the exact settings, And then release is how fast it releases in milliseconds. That the noise reduction kind of releases or dissipates, so to speak, from the point of the threshold. So whenever the threshold kicks in at this negative 12.2 dB, in this case here, it would release 39.97 milliseconds later. The knee, if you should be familiar with compressors if you're going to be using this. Obviously, you need to kind of learn compressors. These terms are definitely, these are this type of tool. You should at least know how to use an EQ properly, know how to use a compressor properly, multi-band compressor. those are kind of basic, so you need to review those things before, just so you have an idea of what these things are and understand how they work. But the knee is basically how abrupt that change happens. So like how fast and how abrupt, whether it's like really hard, like a 0 knee would be really hard, and then 100 knee would be like really rounded. So, again, you have to play around with the settings and tweak it till it sounds about right. Anyway, let's take a quick listen. I think I already had a preset here, possibly, that I used. No, that wasn't it. Oops. I was trying to redo crop audio. Sorry. Anyway, let's go back to, I think it was about here. Let's learn that again real quick. Okay. And do that. And try. See, as you see, if I crank this threshold up, yeah, we reduced more of the background noise, but we're also affecting the voice badly. So come watch what happens here. Even when you do the same thing with reduction, if you push any of these things too far, it actually is going to be worse than what you started with. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate that here real quick. So basically you want to kind of like play with it till you find a happy medium. We'll just kind of do it real quick here. And we'll call it somewhere around there for the sake of argument. Like I said, I'm not going to take a bunch of time to tweak all these settings to get it just right, because I'm just demonstrating it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I need to apply a compression, because, well, the compression, we're going to control some of these peaks and just overall ridiculousness of this. So we're going to dynamics, waves. This is a stereo track, so we'll go comp 1 stereo. And there we have there's already a preset here, works pretty good. Classic compressor, so as it reaches a certain point, that this will come on and compress the sound down. So I'm just kind of adjusting it when the compression is going to kick in. And obviously there's release and attack, threshold. Those are all basically what we were just talking about before. Same things. Ratio is how much that's going to get compressed. So the more I put this up a number, the flatter this gets. So imagine the sound traveling up this way. It gets to a certain decibel point. It's kind of compressed down or flatten out, and trying to keep it from peaking. So, we'll put back to about where it was. I think it was like around 7. Oops. Sorry. So now it's not going completely out of control like it was before. It still sounds like crap because it's in a crappy environment, but it's not completely annoying to listen to. So that definitely helped. So after you have your basic things done, I kind of apply this to the generalized. What I did is I set up the entire clip. It was like 5 minutes long or whatever. With some basic settings to just kind of control things a little bit, not necessarily fine tune it, but want to get the whole thing generalized. So then I hit apply down here, So now it actually applies that. You see the difference in the sound wave here, and actually the information down here as well. Let me undo that real quick. See, here's before. Okay, so still ugly looking. It's sounding better because we're running it through the process. But before we bring it into the multi-track editor, I want to apply it. Otherwise, the effects don't take place when you drag that over to the multi-track. So I'm hit apply. Okay, now we have these effects. Going to open up a. I don't want to delete the old project, so I'll create another one. Multi-track here. I'm going to take this and drop it in. Okay, so we have that clip. So this is like your general multi-track editor, just like Sonar, some other tutorials. Same basic functionality. Off screen, I do have a mixer, as you can see. Excuse me. And so it's basically the same thing. Now what I'm going to do here is, before the actual original, I had all these different voices. So some of the voices that were very different, I would drop them into other tracks. The ones that were more, like, I'd basically group them together in similarity, I guess, based on their qualities. Reverb, based on whether it's guy's voice, female's voice, if it was real rumbly or whatever. Because I may have to apply different effects to different sections audio. So I chopped it up and dropped each section into its own clip in this instance. A lot of times you won't necessarily have that problem, but like I said, I mean, just use your best judgment when it comes to that kind of stuff. So here, I basically was like, all right, I need to put an EQ on here. Normally you would EQ first before anything, like at least a basic EQ, take out rumble and whatnot. But because of the nature of how horrible this clip was to start with, we needed to take care of some things right off the get-go. EQ might not have been a bad choice either. I just felt like, all right, we need to kind of tackle those things first, because I really didn't want to listen to 5 minutes of distortion to begin with at an extreme level. So I was like, no, I'm good. And also, another thing I won't be doing in this one is I did apply a limiter to it, only because across all of them, because I had different levels of all these different clips. Some were quieter, a lot quieter, or a lot louder than others. So I try to kind of level those out with a compressor and limiter working in conjunction with each other, to help kind of balance the overall track. I could have also just went in and kind of adjusted the levels here on the tracks as well, but it was just kind of easier to do it that way as one big swoop. Save myself some time and effort. But if you want a little more control, you obviously could go in there and do that. Okay, back to EQ. Actually, as far as EQs go, EQs on waves are not bad. But I just I prefer the look of this one in here. Where is it? Here it is. I like the functionality of this one, and just overall it's nice, quick and easy. Equalizer to use, no fuss. It just works well. I like some of the ones in Sonar better, but those are specifically to Cakewalk products, and they don't open up here in Audition. At least I haven't been able to get them to work yet, for whatever reason. Anyway, but this is very similar to those, to the Cakewalk one that I like. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down this low here, kind of give it a steep curve, and kind of remove some of the rumble. And the human voice is not down here, so we're going to do that to get rid of it. That's another technique used in sound reduction or noise reduction to begin with. A lot of times when you're recording, especially from video stuff, that's going to be the very first thing you do, as long as your audio is generally good, is remove some of the rumble first and foremost. Obviously, we don't need these really super highs. Kind of pointless. And So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move around the EQ till I like how it sounds. Obviously, keep in mind that you're trying to balance, like in this case, I was trying to balance across a lot of different voices. And so you're trying to find a happy medium. Not like it's clear before. None of this stuff was recorded with any kind of professional equipment clearly, or at least they didn't know what they were doing. And so it's just trying to find a happy medium. And a lot of times when you're working with this kind of situation or where you spend a lot of time reducing noise, this is basically what you're doing. You're getting really crappy you're probably trying to fix something or make better something that wasn't done right to begin with. So it's kind of one of those things. So I'm going to try to look around for some presence in her voice, probably around 3K. I think 3K probably sounds the best here. The around 4K and up sounds a little tinny. And if I bring it down too far, it kind of sounds very, well, kind of muddy and just kind of a weird hollowy sound. Because you already have a lot of reverb in the room. So we don't want to make the reverb worse depending on, so as we EQ, not only we're EQing her voice, but we're also EQing the reverb. And since as of yet there's no plugins or technology that's very successful at removing reverb, at least I've been looking for it and looking, and as far as I know, and based on the research I've done, technology is yet to been invented. I know there's companies working on it, but nobody's come up with a great solution yet. So keep in mind when you're EQing something, you're not only EQing the voice, but you're also EQing the room acoustics. That's why they go to a studio to record in a very controlled acoustical environment to begin with. So I think around 3K, I'm going to boost it up just a little bit, just about 6 decibels. And then I can kind of play around with some of these. Maybe there's some, I can remove some of, add a few narrow cuts in certain sections, to kind of remove maybe some rumble or some reverb or some tinniness or whatever to her voice to kind of make it sound a little better. And again, this is one of those things you can spend a decent amount of time playing around trying to find the right combination. And also keep in mind when you're doing this, you need to be able to ideally reference it on a couple different sets of speakers, and even a couple of sets of headphones would be a good idea as well. Kind of swapping off, and sometimes, like at least for me, when I'm spending a lot of time on stuff like this, I may do something and then come back to it again the next day, depending on how fast the project has to get done. Because your ears will get tired. The stuff will start sounding better to you than it should. Or you'll think you'll have it right, but you'll go back and listen to it the next day and you're like, it's not quite right. So keep that in mind. If you have time to be able to do that, try it. I like to give myself 2 days worth of mixing most of the time. I do rush orders, obviously, but you got to play around with it and reference it on different things. Also referencing it on different speakers and different headphones will also keep your ears a little fresher. So that's another good reason to use multiple monitor sources. I would highly recommend something that allows you to switch monitor sources at a flick of a button. Definitely don't want to be back there plugging and unplugging speakers and headphones and crap. I have the PreSonus Central Station with remote, which is great. I can quickly switch between monitors and headphones. I actually have a separate unit for just like a headphone amp with different headphones plugged into it, so I can just kind of swap those out and then reference also on the central station to different speakers. Like you can also actually reference from different sources too, which is kind of cool. But mostly I just use it for monitors. But it allows you to kind of swap. Like I do have a secondary computer that I can kind of flop over to that sound card as well from the same, and use the same monitors on the same central speaker system. So I would highly recommend it. I think it's about $500 for the whole system, if I remember right, or $400. I don't remember, but Google it. You can find it. It's called PreSonus Central Station. There is other like M Audio and some other ones like the Big Button. I think M Audio makes the Big Button. There's a couple, or Big Knob, I think it's actually called. There's a few others out there. They're just monitoring stations, basically. So check them out. They're very helpful, especially when you're doing stuff like this kind of detailed stuff where you really need to reference stuff. Anyway, back to what we were doing. This is dragging up pretty long. So what I'm doing, like I said, remove the rumble and the high hissing and whatnot. I have that done. So after that, I know that this female, there's a lot of S's, a lot of sibilants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, go down to my dynamics. De-essers are another form of a compressor, but very specifically to S sounds. They're kind of specifically designed for that. And Waves makes two good ones. Make the de-esser stereo and mono, and then they also make the R de-esser stereo and mono. I kind of like this one. You can set up, it already has presets sitting here, which are all real good, and you can just kind of set the preset and just make fine-tune adjustments as needed. But basically we'll go in here to female split. Now you see here, it's just like a compressor in the sense that your threshold and your range is kind of like your ratio, sort of. As we play it, watch what it does. So I move the threshold down so it kicks in earlier at a lower volume level. And the range, as you can see by that right here, how much of that is going to S down. And then this represents the frequency range that's applying it to. You can adjust that here. Then you have the type. In type, you can notch it like that, or do the wide. And then you can go wideband, which is like the whole frequency range that's showing here. And then this is the levels on this side. Obviously, we wouldn't, generally in a de-esser, you wouldn't want to do something like this. It wouldn't make any sense. But it's available in case there's a scenario that you do need it. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it's cool that it's there. Also, when you're using this plugin, which is really cool, I hit this sidechain button here. Now you're just hearing what it's taking out. So you can play around. Play around with the settings here to hear exactly what's doing. So you can see how it's affecting it. Also, you set up your notch filter. Anyway, see, as you go over here, you don't want taking way too much out of the voice. See, as you can see, it sounds hollow. So the end goal really is just to try to remove just the sibilance. You don't want to take out too much of the voice because you're trying to hear it better, not remove it. So that's a de-esser. Like I said, another thing you got to play with. All these tools, it's not like you can throw one of these things in and click preset and it's done. Everything sounds different. So presets are great as a starting point. I like to just go through the presets and see what it does, see where it sits, and if something's close, like roughly where I want it, then that's cool. Let's make note of that preset, and then we'll make some fine-tune adjustments from there, and then go from there. So it gives you a good generalized area. So I have no problem with presets. They're a great tool to save time. You can even, most of these plugins, you can create your own presets. You can take one, manipulate it a little bit, and then rename it and save it as a whole new preset, and you're good to go. Actually, I'll show you that real quick. So say I wanted to make a new preset. Okay, yeah, so say I have a settings, I hit that, and I can title it. Call this Yum Yum. I don't know, whatever. So now we have a new preset called Yum Yum that we can come back to at any given time down the road. So I don't know if I'll ever use Yum Yum again, but it's there. I'm pretty sure you can delete the presets too. Let's go back. Yeah. So if I have Yum Yum, I can click on that. And yes, I want to delete that. I don't need a Yum Yum. Anyway, so those are the basics there. And then with what I had before with all the different things, I might apply another compressor, another limiter across the board, or even master it. I don't think I did much with the mastering on this because I just kind of applied another limiter, a soft limit, just to kind of go across, because the quality of the audio in general really doesn't suit for mastering plugin or mastering in general. I use for my mastering, I use where is it? Ozone 4. Sometimes I'll use that in conjunction, parts of it. Let me pull that up just to quickly show you. You have an equalizer, a reverb, loudness maximizer, which is basically a limiter, a multi-band harmonic exciter, kind of like a BBE, but has a multi-band functionality. Then multi-band dynamics, so multi-band compressor, and then multi-band stereo imaging, so I can control, different frequency ranges and make, different parts wider or narrower just based on frequency range. All those are kind of cool tools. I may use all or some or just a couple in conjunction with something else, a different compressor or different limiter, whatever. At the end process, every situation is different. So, yeah, I believe I didn't really apply any mastering in this specific case because it really wasn't. It's not a song, and it wasn't anything that really would benefit from it. If anything, I think I kind of popped it up there and played with it for a few minutes and realized, this is really just not going to make it sound better. If anything, it's going to make it sound worse. It's going to accentuate all the bad points. Again, because we're not making this perfect. We're not fixing this because there's so many things in this case that were not fixable. Specifically reverb, for the most part, that was the main one. And because of the reverb was so bad that it was just, we're trying to make it just, legible or hearable, whatever, so the audience can hear what they're talking about in the video. So anyway, I'm gonna quit yakking. It's been like 45 minutes or something. Yeah, so this is the basics of cleaning up sound. I hope that helped you. If you dug this video or any of my other videos, I have some other videos on this channel. Check them out too. There are some basics like how to use a compressor, how to use Sonar, some basic functionality of how to use a multi-track DAW digital audio workstation. So whether you're using Sonar or Adobe Audition or Logic or Pro Tools, they all basically function the same way. They have different hotkeys for things, but basically if you know one, you can go in and use another one. It's just a matter of, learning the different shortcuts for each program. But they're basically all have more or less the same functionalities. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. So check those videos out. If you're really just don't know what you're doing yet, those are great starter videos that kind of give you the basics. I would highly recommend those other 3 videos I have there. And then definitely the compressor video. So this one is, like I said, about cleaning up bad audio. So this was pretty poor audio to begin with, but at least you could hear what she's saying better now than you could before. So keep that in mind. I mean, like when you're cleaning up audio, you may not be able to make it perfect. You're just trying to improve what's there. Sometimes it's not that bad, and you can make it pretty much perfect or manipulate it in a way that isn't, you're like, oh, okay, that sounds pretty good. So not everyone's this bad, but not everyone is, some are worse than this even. So, and if you're doing this for other people, try to be honest with people. I get some stuff that is so bad that I'm like, I can charge you for this and do it. You may not really get anything really out of it. And I'll let them know that up front and be like, you may not, just be honest with people. If somebody asks you to do something and it's something that's kind of either out of your league or you're not sure how to tackle it or whatever. I've even had, a couple of times they're like, this is just horrible and really bad, and I don't think I can really make it any better. I'll tell you what, I'm not really busy right now. I'll see what I can do to it. If you like it, then you can pitch me some money. If not, it's fine. Obviously I'm not going to do that all the time if I'm busy with other stuff. But always be honest and upfront with your clients. If you have clients, usually you have more knowledge than this before clients. I would hope so anyway. But maybe you have a friend or something that's like, I have some crappy audio. Can you clean it up? I'll give you $20 or $40 or whatever. Be honest with them. Anyway, go ahead and subscribe if you like this channel. I do have other channels, kind of just following my life and also my video production work, everything else I do there. You can go to this channel, and then there's the featured channels on the right-hand side of my channel with a bunch of other stuff that I do and have done. Some channels I really haven't updated new stuff, but it's still there, so you can go check out all my past videos. I have, like 600 or 700 videos on YouTube as a whole through my 7 channels. I don't know. Anyway, check those out. Subscribe to this channel. I'm going to try to really make some more audio specific channel or audio specific project or tutorials, excuse me. Gosh. If you have anything specific that you want explained or taught, please put it in one of the comments of the video. Even better yet, send me a message on YouTube, or I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook, and I usually put all my social media stuff below, so hit me up, ask the question. If you're not sure if I saw the question, message me again, try to get a hold of me. I will do my best to make something for you. Everyone have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.